Thank you. I'd like to just get all the Ron Paul supporters fired up for, all right, I need you guys out there just to stand up for liberty, rise up against tyranny. That's right. That's right. That's right, we do need to end the Fed. Thank you very much, guys. When Danielle and I were given the opportunity to come to CPAC and introduce Congressman Ron Paul, we were speechless. This is a man who's been extremely influential on our lives, as well as gotten us excited and passionate about the true conservative movement. Not the fake one. He served our country as a flight surgeon. He's a medical doctor, an OBGYN who's delivered over 4,000 babies. And it really is no surprise that his message has created so much enthusiasm with young Americans. We feel that that's really important because we really are the future. Rather than following the mainstream Republican message, we need to embrace a message of freedom, liberty, and independence through limited government. The thing that's great about Ron Paul and why I look up to him is because he's always positive and humble, and he's always had the courage to consistently force real issues of non-interventionist foreign policy, and monetary fiscal conservatism, instead of latching on to the continued rhetoric we hear from other politicians and so-called conservatives.
Ron Paul's message is simple yet strong. It's a message built on solid principles of our founding fathers of this great country. We need to get as passionate about our country and our sovereignty as we do about football games and the next American Idol. The 2008 campaign, just a few years ago, most people had no idea that the Federal Reserve was a private and independent agency looting the American taxpayer. In addition to their awareness, Ron Paul's Audit the Fed bill, H.R. 1207, has gained 317 co-sponsors and has passed the House.
That's right, it's passed the House, in the Senate.
So we're excited to say that people are waking up. People are getting excited about the movement. Just look here at what the Campaign for Liberty, the impact they've had on this event alone. So now without further ado, it is our pleasure and our honor to introduce to you presidential candidate,
Texas Congressman,
Dr. Ron Paul.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Wow, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It sounds to me like the revolution is alive and well. Wonderful. It's great to see such a nice crowd quite a few here, 10,000 people, all interested in promoting good government, limited government, and personal liberty. I would say this is a grand opportunity for all of us to come together because something is brewing big. This is a different year than anything we have ever experienced before, and I am optimistic to believe that a lot of good is going to come out of what is happening in this country today, whether it's the CPAC meeting or the Tea Party movements or the recent victories in the elections. But believe me, by the end of this year, I think this country is going to be a lot better off. You know, the one thing I think brings so many of us together and what's been happening these last couple of years has been the idea of having change. As a matter of fact, somebody won an election with using that slogan, a change. But there's a change that we want that we haven't gotten yet. And I think that's what we're here to talk about. What kind of change do we really want? And what can we agree on so that we're not talking about different things? And to me, it's very important that we understand what conservatism means. To me, to be a conservative means to conserve the good parts of America and to conserve our Constitution. I first got involved in politics in the 1970s because I was very concerned about the financial situation. The Bretton Woods Agreement broke down, the gold standard was cast aside, and I said this will usher in the age of big government. And that came in under a Nixon administration. And since that time we have been struggling. We have been struggling with the conservative message, and we have had bits and pieces of this coming together, but we really haven't had to follow through. We had a revolution of sorts in 1980 with Ronald Reagan. But, and then, of course, we had 1994, and we took over the Congress. And that, of course, was very good, and that was designed to limit government. But government kept growing. Also, in the year 2000, we had a remarkable event, something that hadn't happened in more than 40 years. It was probably 50 years, where there was a Republican president, a Republican Congress, a House, and a Republican Senate. But we didn't get the revolution. There was a lot of desire and a lot of pressure by people like you and saying, what we want is limited government. We want balanced budgets. We want our liberties back. You know, and I think what has happened, and I see what our problems are in philosophic terms, not in partisan terms. And I think what happened, especially back in the teens of the last century when Woodrow Wilson was president, that, and those boos are rightly deserved, let me tell you. But I also use this as an opportunity to put a little pressure on conservatives who had some of their views changed that time. Just think of what Woodrow Wilson stood for. He stood for world government. He wanted a early, United Nations, League of Nations. But it was the conservatives, Republicans that stood up against it. But how often have you heard today, maybe you did, but how many people are saying it's the conservative position to not even belong to the United Nations? '13 wasn't a very good year. 1913 gave us the income tax, the 16th Amendment, and the IRS. And what's wrong with getting rid of the income tax and the 16th Amendment? I think it'd be a great idea. And of course, I've already taken a very modest position on the monetary system. I do take the position that we should just end the Fed. But there were other things that went on during the Wilson's administration. Our foreign policy changed. I think it was for the negative. His goal was to make the world safe for democracy, and he prodded us into a war that we should have never gotten into. And we, as conservatives, too many conservatives, have accepted this principle that it is our moral and legal constitutional responsibility to engage ourselves and make the world safe for democracy. I don't think it's possible. Matter of fact, if you think back just a short time ago to the year 2000, when George Bush was running, guess what he ran on? And guess what he won on? He was running against an interventionist foreign policy. He was running against Clinton's policy of intervention, nation building, and the policeman of the world. And he was elected on that. There's nothing wrong with being a conservative and come up with a conservative belief in foreign policy where we have a strong national defense and we don't go to war so carelessly.